You know the lady in the Jurassic Park movies, the newer ones?
Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard?
Yes. I think we need one of those, like a character who's like the scientist.
And she will be in heels the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. There'll be a scene where Glenn Powell is like, well, why don't you introduce me to this paranormal quack you have on board? What's his name? And she goes, you mean her name? Click, click, heels walking in.
In 2022, two writers came together to finish what Universal Studios couldn't. A cinematic universe of monster movies called the Dark Universe. After 3 years and 30 scripts, their project was finally completed. Now, in 2025, they're back to attempt what's never been done before, a completely original cinematic universe entirely in podcast form. I'm Dalton DeShane.
And I'm Dylan Roth.
And you are now entering the Pod Universe.
Welcome back to the Pod Universe, the podcast where we attempt to create an all-original sci-fi cinematic universe entirely in podcast form. I am your anti-Vietnam War host, Dalton DeShane, and of course, that leaves Dylan.
You're boxing me in to be a Warhawk now. I am.
Yes,
I am your two-time Richard Nixon voter host, Dylan Roth.
Everyone knows that's listened to the show that Dylan is a big-time military industrial complex fan. Welcome to the Pod Universe. We are currently in the middle of Phase 1. We just wrapped up Dylan's incredible, terrifying pitch for a psychological sci-fi. I'm still getting in the we just recorded. This is our only episode we're recording today, so I'm kind of getting in the swing of talking. So I'm just kind of saying
well, I'm always ready to start talking.
Yeah, that's true. I can
Would
just
you
let
like
you
to hear
go
about
for,
Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, why don't I go get some dinner or something, and I'll come back in a couple hours.
Our guest and I can talk about Metal Gear Solid for a while, and that'll be the show.
Cass, are you super in the know about Metal Gear Solid? You mentioned all of your sort of lore passions.
Yeah, I would say I'm like middle of the road. I've played 1, 2, 3. I haven't played 4 or 5. I haven't done Peace Walker, the side games, but I could say I know my Kojima fairly well.
Great, I can head out then. All right,
we'll
just leave
do
this episode to you two.
Well, okay, we'll probably just honor the usual format of the show, which is to say that now and then we throw open the doors of our studio and invite our favorite storytellers to plumb the depths of classic genre cinema and pitch their own remake to our imaginary studio. Our guest this week is a Toronto-based writer who spent a decade hunting for stories throughout the weird and wonderful world of gaming. You might know them from their 8-year stint at Polygon, where they famously wrote about a big, unruly horse named Hayseed that everybody hates. They're now a writer and co-founder of the worker-owned, reader-supported games website Rogue.site, as well as an expert on Warhammer 40K, World of Warcraft, not Metal Gear Solid, but other wildly complicated fantasy worlds.
More of an expert on Metal Gear Solid than I am.
Yeah,
I'm
but you've never made any.
this.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I properly represent the expertise of our guest here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Speaking of complicated fantasy worlds, welcome to the Pod Universe, Cass Marshall.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here.
Yes, we also have lots of complex lore, although not so complex right now. We're still in Phase 1.
We're in the beginning of a saga, right?
Although the very premise of the Pod Universe is a little complex lore.
Yeah, we're doomed to forever spend the first 15 minutes of any conversation explaining what the fuck we do. Hey, short version for anyone who's popping in today. We write scripts back and forth at each other, trying to create an ongoing cinematic universe of movies that don't actually get made, and we just read them to each other, and we perform them, and we score them, and
the thing is,
nice.
When we started the Pod Universe, our goal was like, oh, well, with the Dark Universe podcast, we had to, anytime we explain it to someone, we had to explain what the 2017 Mummy was, and we're like, that's annoying. We should just come up with something original, because no one knows about the 2017 Mummy. But now when we explain it, we have to explain quantum physics to whoever it is, and it turns out I'd rather talk about the Mummy.
Hey, we know what we can talk about today. We're here to talk about a movie that Dalton and I just saw for the first time, but which is a favorite of our guest. Cass, tell us about the movie you've picked for us to talk about today.
Absolutely. So the film is called Our Point. It is a 2004 horror film, a South Korean psychological horror film,
Mm-hmm.
where a platoon of troops are sent into the Vietnam War in pursuit of a missing platoon that, had mysteriously vanished in the thick of the war. And as they advance into this new unexplored territory, they get a little bit more than they bargained for when it comes to ghosts and other ghoulish encounters.
So true. Definitely some ghosties in Our Point. Now, this was a movie that I had never heard of before. And as far as I can tell, doesn't even seem to be like super popular in the South Korean like horror canon. Like this really seems like a deep cut, a 20-year-old deep cut. So I'm very curious, Cass, how you found Our Point and when your first experience with this movie was.
Well, one of the things I do is I write about horror games, and I
Mhm.
think doing that, you eventually learn about the things that influence these creators, right?
Sure.
And when you have a horror indie game made by like one or two people, they'll tell you their inspirations, and like it'll be the strangest stuff, late night infomercials or South Korean horror films or,
Sure.
analog TV from the 90s. And so I stumbled upon Our Point, reading about the inspirations. And it was just very vaguely explained, like it's a war film with a twist. And I'm like, I like twists. All right, let's go. And I very much enjoyed it, although it is very much a deep cut. It's not the sort of thing I can bust out at parties, being like, would anyone else like to discuss this film?
Do you remember what game it was that said it was influenced by Our Point?
I believe it was a Chilla's art game, which is, I believe, his two brothers in Japan. And they make these very strange, very like personal little horror games with premises like you are a Starbucks worker and a guy is stalking you,
Okay.
which, is nicely relatable. And
Yeah.
through them, I sort of got into the larger world of Eastern horror, which is a very nice change of pace, after exploring the Western canon.
There should be more horror games where the premise is just like, you are a woman. This is Woman Simulator 2000. And
Speaking about the idea of like sort of Western horror and Eastern horror canon, when I was watching this, it came to mind that there's sort of two categories you can sort like a horror movie into, which is seeing people die or finding bodies. This is a big finding bodies movie. You see very few kills on screen, but you
until the
are
end.
yes, but you are encountering a lot of dead folks.
Yes.
And as Cass was saying, it is a period piece set during the Vietnam War. And it's always also interesting to watch a Vietnam movie made by not Americans.
Yes. I was thinking about that too. Because, this is about a South Korean platoon in Vietnam. And they do actually encounter an American squad at one point.
Or do they?
Or, there's more than what meets the eye afoot in Our Point. I'm always interested to see war films made in countries that the U.S. has done nasty imperialism to. Because like Korea, obviously, famously, we decimated I think a majority of the Korean population during the Korean War. But at the same time, this was made so far after the Korean War. I was kind of looking for is there, when it started, I was like, is this going to be sort of, even though it takes place during the Vietnam War, sort of about imperialism in Korea? And I don't think so.
It doesn't have a lot to do with that. No, it's
just
more
kind
about
of
a legacy of violence there.
Yeah.
And America is just one of the, almost in this case, a tertiary player. It goes
for sure
way beyond us.
Yeah, they gesture towards imperialism when the characters end up at this French plantation.
Yes.
And it's sort of, gestures at a long history, a cycle of violence, but it's not overly interested in commenting on it. It's just, here's the backdrop. Now we're going to send these porter soldiers into the meat grinder.
Yeah, it reminded me, we talked during our Dark Universe podcast about the film His House, which is similarly a sort of ghost story, a sort of haunted house story where the ghosts are sort of victims of a war in different ways. And I always think that's an interesting premise for ghost stories. In this case, though, the people affected by it are actually still in the war. Like the war is very much still active, which I don't know. Like at the same time, like knowing everything about the Vietnam War that we do now, I was like, hell, these guys kind of got off easy, considering like all the shit that went down in the Vietnam War. The getting killed by a bunch of ghosts, not the worst thing that happened over there, to be honest.
So the titular R point is essentially like an objective point on a map, I imagine. This is a military code given to a specific map on a location. It's a graveyard, right?
Yeah.
This was a place where the Chinese apparently slaughtered a bunch of Vietnamese in this place, buried them in this lake, filled the lake.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, sometime later, the French who were occupying the country built their plantation there.
Don't they say actually the Chinese built a temple over the lake of bodies? Isn't that a part of the inscription they find on the rocks?
Okay, actually, if anyone built the temple, I think the Vietnamese built the temple because it's considered sacred there, and the Viet Cong don't go there in the story.
The impression I got was that this was essentially a light drawing in just various doomed military ventures, some of which built tributes or shrines, some of which just perished. And so you have like ghosts on ghosts on ghosts going on, where something about the environment itself is deeply cursed.
Yeah, that's the impression I got too, because even at the end, you see the deceased sort of leader of the squadron we've been seeing sort of calling out for the next group. Through the radio, right? Implying that this is all going to happen again. A new platoon is going to come and this sort of cycle of violence is going to continue. It's interesting that, at least from the information we're given, it seems to all trace back, as you were saying, Dylan, to the Chinese killing these Vietnamese people and putting them in the lake. But there are no Chinese characters in the film, well, other than the ones carved into the rock. The Chinese character. We're dealing with talking about a legacy of violence between three different Asian nations that I do not have context for. I don't know the history of like Chinese violence in Vietnam or how South Korea ties into that, or if it does,
that might be part of why. I mean, when we're watching it from where and when we are, it kind of feels like it's really more about the nature of this endless cycle of violence, way more than it is about who is performing the violence on whom.
Which I guess that's a difference with like American ghost stories where we know who did the violence here. Like it's the white Europeans. We came over and we, killed everybody. So like when we talk about like movies like Poltergeist, where the house is built on a Native American burial ground, well, we are the perpetrators, right? And so to see this kind of movie with a much longer history and a more complex history, and it's like, oh, well, the Chinese did this. These people are still in the midst of a war in which they are being invaded by Americans, but also Koreans. And now, it's a much more complex chain of violence to the point where, that Chinese connection doesn't even have to exist in this story that we're seeing, right? It's interesting to see from a Western perspective.
It is. And I think something else I really like about the film is that the soldiers themselves are just totally ignorant as to the situation. Like they're doing this for an early discharge. They don't care about, it's like, oh, people went missing and I can get an early discharge, and their leader, Lieutenant Choi, can get his record cleared of insubordination. So they're like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's just do this mission and get in and get out. And they're not invested. They're not archaeologists or historians, which makes them really woefully underprepared. But I think it's interesting framing for the rest of the story.
Heck, they seem to have a hard time counting because one of the big twists of this movie, and we're going to be talking about all the twists in this movie. So if you really do not want to be spoiled for our point, hit pause on here, find it online somewhere, watch it, and come on back. The first time the characters are aware that something's amiss is that there are 10 of them on this mission, and one of them, they find his body. They call into headquarters that he's been killed, and they're like, that's one of the guys we sent you to rescue. There's only supposed to be 9 of you there.
Which Can we talk about the way this guy died for a second? Because I'm a little fuzzy on the details. They're sitting outside the French plantation. The guy who plays the rich dad in Parasite, he's sitting on the steps and suddenly he gets drenched in blood. And we look up and it appears as though the guy has hung himself, but also his head is like not connected to his body. But it's connected enough that like the body doesn't fall, but clearly his head, like you can see like the bottom of his neck. So it's like mostly severed. He's sort of like, nearly headless Nick from the books that we don't talk about.
I don't know what's so confusing. That's happened to me 3 or 4 times.
It has to have happened right in that moment for all the blood to drop. I mean, obviously it's a ghost.
He's
it
a
didn't
ghost.
Really happen.
Doesn't matter.
I guess he can just drop
I feel
blood
like
whenever
we're
he
just
wants.
splitting heads here.
My interpretation was the ghost was just trying to freak them out as much as possible. So
Sure.
the noose is decoration. It's theater. The ghost just gives this guy and then is like, check it out. He hanged himself. Or did he?
It's not just that my head was cut off. I also committed suicide. It's to be honest, I had trouble following some of the ghostly shenanigans in this movie. And I think part of it, everyone wearing military fatigues.
Yeah, when you're following 10 guys with the same haircut and same outfit, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. Look, I know what some people are going to say. This is a South Korean movie. People are going to say, you're being racist. It is not about, it is the military fatigues. And also we're watching everyone mostly from the back as they're like walking through the jungle.
I think it's pretty forgivable to have a hard time remembering.
I hope so.
These like 9 deliberately, again, this is part of what a uniform is.
They're all the same
they
age.
Deliberately are like versions of the same guy. That's you're in the army.
So
that's how that works.
Don't cancel me. Don't come for me. I'm a nice boy.
I did, however, take some notes on some of the individual characters here. Choi, Lieutenant in Charge. He seems like he's got kind of a cool action hero vibe if this were a different movie.
He
but
does.
This is not that kind of movie. He's not a bad boy commander who gets things done. He's doomed, and he's going to remain doomed.
Mm-hmm.
Jin, the second in command, would really like not to be second in command because he doesn't want to be taking orders from this guy. He doesn't like taking those orders. Park, he's a musician, a saxophone player, and the, quote, godfather of bitches, end quote, sort of comic relief sometimes. One of the biggest performances of the movie. He's hammered it up pretty good. Feels appropriate for his character.
The Godfather of Bitches Part 2 was really the peak of that trilogy, though.
Yeah, it's true. You know what, though? The Godfather of Bitches, Coda, does kind of make up for some of the mistakes of Part 3.
Okay, great.
It can be the next podcast series. The the Godfather of Bitches.
The Godfather of Bitches
universe.
cinematic universe. Well, that starts with our point. We take our point as our Iron Man.
That's right, but we have to, we're actually going to do a bunch of prequels to follow how Park came to be in Vietnam, and then we're going to follow the legacy of the various musicians that he has had sex with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy, Ma, who's mostly called Cook because he's pretending to be a special ops guy, but in fact is a cook, and he gets found out. Gets one of the more... I was going to say one of the more sympathetic portrayals in the movie, only in the sense that at least one other character on screen cares about him. That's something this movie is kind of missing, is any sense of camaraderie within the guys that makes you feel bad for them dying. Except for I'm not sure you're really supposed to feel bad when they die. The only guy I felt bad for when he died was Ma, because, and forgive me, I don't remember which guy was cradling him in his arms, was really sad that he died.
Yes.
And that makes me sad. When the character on screen is sad, I become sad. And
that's
but
called
I
empathy.
get what you're saying, in that I think in an American version of this, they would all be like brothers in arms, like talking about their past feats. You really get the sense that most of them don't really like each other.
No, this is not a unit that's been together for a long time. They were cobbled together from aren't some, if not all of this gang recruited out of a syphilis ward? Right?
Yes.
they are...
That is a good scene.
They are scooped up because they're on a doomed rescue mission. And you know what? For all we know, Command is fully aware that we have to send somebody
back.
after these guys. Let's send people we don't give a shit about. We've got this one hard case lieutenant who we could frankly do without, and we'll give them a bunch of misfits. They don't have any cohesion. They're kind of a mess, right?
The American version of this, by the way, would just be the first half of Predator, I think, to give you an idea of the difference. But
we're going to hear the Canadian version later on in the show. Which actually reminds me, before we go on, we should go to a quick break from one of our sponsors. And let's hear from some of the folks paying the bills over here at Pod Universe HQ. We'll be right back. Many a salty sailor has warned their deckhands of Davy Jones and his locker. Some tell tales of a dead pirate captain sailing a ghostly ship filled with lost souls. Others may say that he's the devil himself, punishing the sinful and mutinous lost at sea. But the true warning of that ancient legend has been mangled throughout the decades. Closer to the truth is the biblical tale of Jonah, for it is said the original name was not Davy Jones, but Devil Jonah. Tossed overboard for his sins, Jonah was swallowed up by a big fish often thought to be a whale. But that old text has lost the true warning. Nowhere. But the great Leviathan itself came for Jonah, and he didn't cry out in repentance to those above to be saved. No, instead, he sought a bargain with those below to spare himself from the flames. A bargain he must keep to this very day. Introducing the Devil Jonah's Leviathan by Silly Little Guy LLC and our mateys at Plus One EXP. Using a couple decks of cards, this horror RPG has players seeking to escape the ever-changing and horrific bowels of the great Leviathan before the monstrosities in the beast devour them, or Jonah is able to drag their souls to hell. Coming in April from Plus One EXP, or follow along at silly-little-guy.com/Jonah. Now back to our show.
Very nice. We gotta get some pirates in the pod universe.
And we're back. Let's talk more about our point.
Okay, so what I was going to say before the ad rudely interrupted me. Rude person
how
who paid
dare
us
you?
money for ad space, cutting me off like that. God damn, what was I going to say?
We'll never know now.
No, I was going to talk about going back to the guy who hung himself and his head got cut off. One of the problems was when that happened, I couldn't remember if this was a guy we knew already. Was this someone that had like lines and a personality?
He specifically does not have lines.
Okay.
But he's
just
there the whole time, and he's not supposed to be used. The kind of thing where you go back through the movie and you realize, hey,
he was there the whole
that's
time.
an extra guy. And your first clue for that is when they take the group picture. You've got seven of the guys. You've got 8 guys in the picture. The 9th guy's holding the camera. And then he hands it to somebody like, hang on, you hold it. I want to be in the picture. Then he goes into frame. Now there's 9 guys in the picture. Who's holding the holding the camera? Extra guy.
So, because I think that was one of the things when he died, I was like, which one was he? Which one was he? Is he?
Oh, and I don't mean to say that I was up on this at the time either.
Yeah.
I did not know going ahead. But in preparation for this, trying to make sure I had my facts straight, I did watch a video of a guy talking about it and went through how the twist unfolds.
Well, here's the other thing that was confusing me about this movie. Apple TV now has a feature where if you are in a house with somebody else and you're watching something on Apple TV, on your phone, you get a little control thing for the thing that's being played. So I was downstairs watching Our Point, and I was 15 minutes in. They had just found the woman that was shooting at them. And I looked down at my phone for a second. And while I'm looking down, apparently Sarah, my fiance upstairs, accidentally scrolled me about an hour further into the movie. And then I looked up and like whatever like scrubbing bar had been there was gone. So I had no idea. Because also it scrolled me to a part, they weren't at the plantation yet. They were just in the jungle. So look, I was watching it. They're in the jungle. I looked down on my phone. I look back up. They're still in the jungle. I think everything's the same.
You know, here's the thing. You have inadvertently gotten into the experience of being at Our Point, where time is kind of not real.
Yeah.
Right? And there is no escape, and you're always going to be in that jungle. In fact, Dalton, I hate to break it to you, you're probably there right now.
Oh, fuck. I'm there. There's no going back as the stone thing. But so I look up and they like find the helicopter with the Americans and they're like, are these the Americans we met? They were ghosts. And I was like, what Americans? Was that off screen? Did they meet Americans off screen? And then it gets to the part where they find the bodies of the people they're looking for in the river, and I was like, wow, they got that out of the way early. I'm like 15 minutes in. They already found all the bodies of the guys. And then I checked the thing and I was like, shit, I'm like an hour and 20 into this. And so I went back.
Spoiler. All the guys are dead.
Sorry, all the guys they're looking for, you may not have guessed, are dead. So anyway, maybe that's also part of why I was confused.
But Cass, can you tell us a little bit, like, what is, like, we know how you found the movie. What draws you to Our Point? Why did you pick Our Point for the show today?
Yeah, good question.
So what I like about Our Point is that it has the cycle of soldiers being drawn into this place in search of other soldiers, perishing in the attempt, and then the cycle continues.
Mm-hmm.
So after our poor doomed squad go in search of the missing platoon on their mission, after the shit really hits the fan and we get like a comical level of violence really popping off, like in the last 20 minutes or so, it's all bets are off. Ghosts are everywhere.
Yep.
It gets a little bit silly. And I think I love that because it's a little bit like the old lady who swallowed a fly.
But she'll definitely die this time.
You're just feeding the soldiers to this ghost house. And it would be so avoidable because earlier on in the film, it was like, hey guys, I think I saw some ghosts. I'm kind of freaked out. And they're like, shut up, buddy, whatever. Totally blow it off. And I love that combo of like, you have this totally doomed endeavor destined to repeat forever. And then you have one guy who's genre aware enough to recognize it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else is just, nah. And that combo.
You got to have the one guy that's Jamie Kennedy in Scream. Yeah. That's clocking everything. Yeah. It's, it just keeps happening over and over again, just like war.
Huh.
A lot
God,
to think
y'all.
about. Something to think about.
I'm just thinking about the genre-aware person for like this genre of horror, where arriving like, there's nothing we can do. It's just like, oh my God, okay, you know the rules of this. How do we get out of this? Oh no, nothing.
No, we've been Blair Witched.
Yeah,
essentially
we're cursed from the moment that we arrive. There's absolutely no way to get out.
It's Vietnam War Blair Witch is essentially what the movie is.
You mentioned earlier there's the scene where they're passing off the camera, and you go, wait a minute. And I think what really shocked me is there's a scene where they're all frozen in terror. It's very stiff. Everyone's like beads of sweat rolling down their brow. And like right in the middle of the frame, there's the ghost. His helmet is pulled down, covering his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So he looks a little bit like a video game NPC. You can tell there's something off. But I thought it's pretty clever. Just here's the monster. He is just straight up there if you're looking for him. It's like the sort of movie that really gets better with a second watch because you know the trick now. So there are all these scenes where you're just like, I see you. I think that's just a really fun way to do the ghosts. It's a little inconsistent. Are the ghosts possessing people? Are they doppelgangering people? Are they just creating their own form? It kind of varies from scene to scene. But ghosts don't have to make sense. That's the great things about ghosts.
That's the nice thing about horror and fantasies. I don't have to know how it works. The authors don't have to know how it works. It doesn't have to follow any rules, and that makes it scarier.
I think there was definitely some like lore following I was trying to do that never fully clicked, and maybe it's not supposed to. Like you said, like at the end they start getting possessed and like firing on each other. Then there's also this reveal at the end of the woman, who is the same woman who is shooting at them at the beginning, I believe.
Yes, but she's also the woman in the picture from the 1910s with the French military.
So I guess I'm kind of like, okay, she killed the French military on the plantation, but then why did she need to shoot at them when they arrived? And then they seemingly kill her again.
I think that's some kind of test.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to interpretation. All right, so when they first arrive in the jungle, they get shot at. They fire a rocket launcher into where they're being shot from. There's one survivor in the group, and it's a woman. They all stand around her trying to argue about who's going to kill her. They ultimately decide not to kill her. And frankly, I don't think this is them showing mercy. I think it's because they're all cowards.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're doing out of the kindness of their heart. They're all kind of afraid of it. They're
all daring each other to do it until eventually Choi is like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
He takes his gun out like he's going to do it. He also doesn't do it. She's staring at them, daring them to do it, right? She's got this sort of very much like, fuck you look on her face.
Mm-hmm.
There probably was no win condition, right? That's not the kind of horror movie this is. The transgression occurred, occurs continuously, right?
Yeah.
They arrived with blood on their hands, and also they pissed on that one stone, and so they're fucked, right?
Well, the transgression was all of them getting syphilis. The moral of this story is that if you get syphilis, you do deserve to die.
Don't cheat on your wife and when you go to war. No, I mean, I think what it is that she's there. I think to as I don't think there's anybody alive in there, right? There was no Viet Cong presence for them to fight.
Right.
This is just a matter of like, I don't know. We're gonna mess with them on a couple different levels. This is one of the ways that we're gonna do it. And again, I don't need there to be a literal explanation for it, but for me, it's sort of like her testing, like her, of course, being kind of an abstract idea. We do a monster cam throughout the movie where we see sort of this floating ghost camera doing night vision, flying in and out of things, which I think is kind of cool because it reminds you that the monster is always present throughout the movie.
Cass, what is your read on the woman? Do you have a theory about this woman and her intentions, about the shooting scene? What do you think?
So my read on that is over the years, over the cycles, everyone who dies in these conflicts are captured essentially by the island, by the plantation.
Mm-hmm.
And so like after images of them almost are manifesting where I don't think they have motivations. I don't think they're necessarily testing the soldiers, but this is probably pretty similar to a conflict the woman went through in an earlier cycle.
Sure.
She not that she's a soldier, but she was drawn into the cycle of violence by the occupation, by the resistance. And so she's just captured. And that's just one of the manifestations of the ghost, of the spirit. Like, it's kind of very much up to interpretation
Mm-hmm.
on whether there is a guiding hand behind the scenes, like whether there's a singular hive mind or force, or whether it's just people who are trapped and they're just doing what they did forever and they each have their own individual will or ability to manifest. But I do like the idea that it's like a Venus flytrap. And once you're in there, you're kind of in the library of just things that can happen. Like the American rolling in. That's just, they have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more agency, but ultimately they are just manifestations as well.
Yeah, my kind of read partially was also the rock they find that does have like the characters, the inscriptions telling about the Chinese killing the Vietnamese people. I kind of saw that as like the boundary of our point, like because it's even inscribed on there like there's no going back or something.
Yeah. So the inscription says that if you have blood on your hands and you cross and you enter, you will not return.
Yes. So my read on that was also they encounter the woman firing at them before they get to that. So I think like kind of like what you were saying, Dylan, is like this is kind of it's almost like a test of just turn around. Like if go back where you came from, and they don't. They fire back and they push past her, even though she has given them a violent warning. Do not go farther than this.
I had forgotten that was before the marker. So
it is
maybe
before
that
the marker.
Is sort of like we're kind of maybe applying more of the horror tropes that we're accustomed to on top of this that may or may not have been part of the intention. But typically in an American slasher movie, for example, you have the harbinger, right? I think that's what they call him in the
old guy at the gas station.
The old guy at the gas station, right? Who's supposed to tell you turn back now. Maybe that's sort of her role, in addition to these stones that say, "Hey, don't go in there. Don't piss on this."
I do love the stones though, because you know how they had to come up with a way to communicate nuclear waste being stored or like atomic, fallout.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a place of honor. There is nothing of value buried here. And just the idea that someone stumbles across that very considered, very deliberate message. And it's just like, whatever, dude. Fucking don't tell me what to do.
Now it's time to do the very current thing and get those characters put on some booty shorts to wear around. Just the exact text of what it says in our point on the ass of some shorts. Yeah, and then they come across the rock again later, and I don't know if this movie is filled with so many like ghosty things that happen, and sometimes I'm just like, did something ghosty just happen, or did I misunderstand what just happened? But they come across the rock again, but they come across it from the same direction that they did the first time, and I was like, oh, is this sort of like an infinite loop thing where they have gone far enough, but you can't leave our point, so they've come across its border again from the same direction, right? Like they can't, the exit is closed behind them and now they're just looping around the land on themselves. I don't know.
I think it's either that or the second rock is like a manifestation, like remember me, remember the warning. Oh, you like now you have a chance to look at it after the ghostly, after you know exactly how fucked you are, and sort of get that hindsight. And that might just be, again, it's hard to tell how much of this is just ghost stuff. But that was kind of my read. I think either one works out.
Maybe there's rocks everywhere that are telling you, hey, you're fucked.
Yeah, there's like a lot. They get increasingly rude the longer you walk through. The warnings are being like, it's almost like a Warner Brothers cartoon where you have a series of signs that you're running towards, and each one's like, turn back. Come on, not kidding. All right, sure, okay, wise guy.
Yeah, finding the rock that's like, you're still alive.
Yes.
Yeah. The rock that says duck, and then you duck and an arrow goes over your head. Yeah.
I found that anytime I wasn't sure what was going on and I felt like that was on purpose, I really, really, really liked it. Anytime that I felt like couldn't tell what was going on and I felt like, oh no, I fucked something up and I needed to like reorient myself, it was hard for me to tell if I should blame it on the movie or my own attention span.
Yeah.
I do have to say that the first 20 minutes of this movie threw me for a loop a little bit, because I did not look up anything about the movie ahead of time. I didn't even know what genre it was. I know that I saw the cover, the poster, right, which certainly screams horror movie. But there's lots of kinds of horror movies, right? And so we get to them at the being recruited and being promised a ride home with hot stewardesses, and everyone jumps to attention. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is kind of like a funny sort of horror movie.
Well, also because the first time we meet most of our characters, it's with their pants down and their dicks out.
Yes.
And a doctor literally walks by one of them and goes, what the? That's disgusting.
Yeah. But the thing is, horror movies are often, we always talk about the relationship between comedy and horror, right?
Yeah.
But it took me a while to settle into what I thought the tone of the movie overall was going to be. And that I spent too much time trying to, it's bad, right? It's almost like a sort of kind of Reddit brain that I don't like, where I'm spending too much of my RAM trying to figure out the movie instead of just watching the movie.
You're 45 minutes in, you're like, get your dicks out again. I thought that's what the movie was going to be.
Yeah,
was everyone with their dicks out.
Gotta do a D check.
Yeah.
D point.
They do take a shit at one point. That's kind of a gag.
No, that's a gag too. They're all
that's
crouched.
A good gag.
There are lots of good gags in this movie, and I appreciate that. Once I locked in with what the movie was doing, I liked those bits of comedy because it kind of reminds you again, like, I'm always a big proponent of war stories being absurd, because I think that's kind of the only way to look at it. They're having these conversations, squatting in the tall grass, and you think that, they're just sitting in the tall grass. They have their conversation, and they all get up and their pants are down. They wipe their butts, and they pull their pants up. That's funny. That's a really good bit.
Shitting with the homies.
That's always such a great balance with horror, too, where you want to have the characters be likable, but you also kind of want the viewer to be not torn up when they're brutally murdered, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think teenagers are used in horror movies so much. They're just a very genuinely obnoxious class of people.
Yeah, because everybody hates them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think going with, these soldiers who are bottom of the barrel, wash out, just hoping for a quick ride home, does a very similar effect, where once these guys start dying, don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, it's that balance of like, right off the bat, you're like, I fucking hate these guys. But then through the movie, you get to know them more and you're like, oh, they're actually like a person. And then they die. And, it's that you care just enough.
Yeah, no, I think that, like, I was talking about, like, in terms of likability, like, what's missing a little bit is getting to feel like you get to know the individuals, or the individuals get to know each other. You only get a couple of those. But the scene where they turn on the radio and they're listening to they find a tape and they're listening to the Ventures. They're so excited. First of all, shout out to the Ventures. I love the Ventures. Classic 60s guitar group.
There we go.
And like, they're dancing. They're just goofy dancing. They're just being, guys being dudes, right? And that's, I think, a helpful thing to do in any war movie, but also in a horror movie, right? Like, you got to have those moments where you just get to enjoy. These are just guys. And then you got to follow that up immediately, as this movie does, with, oh, the tape is fucking haunted. And the sounds,
tape was haunted.
And the slick sounds of Guitar Heroes, The Ventures, get replaced by the sick sounds of people screaming for their lives.
That's not on the original Venture single. I just thought that was part of the song.
No, you know what? I know what. All right. So the mono mix, is all guitars. The stereo mix has the guitars in the left channel and the screaming in the right channel.
And in the 70s, they did start doing stuff like that. As in a response to the Vietnam
They had
War.
a pretty hard time, the Ventures, keeping up with like the British invasion and then like Frank Zappa. So they got pretty avant-garde in the 70s. That's where you get the stereo screaming tracks.
See, the tape was shocking to me because after watching a bunch of war movies, I was under the impression that anything you listened to in Vietnam was just Fortunate Son.
Yeah.
Even
It's
if,
true.
no matter what country you are fighting with or for, it's Credence and nothing else.
It's always Credence. Yeah, and look, extra star for this movie for not having any Credence Clearwater Revival songs in it. That
was a great way for you guys not to waste half your budget. We really appreciate it.
Cass, we want to be able to get to your pitch, but before we do, what did we forget about our point? Is there anything else about this movie you want to talk about, or anything about its impact on you, or anything that maybe will be relevant for your pitch later that we haven't touched on?
I think and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but something I really love about the movie is the pacing, where you do spend so much time being like, what's the deal with these ghosts? Are they pulled? You're thinking about the physics and the mystery behind it all. And then in about the last 20 minutes, like the gloves are off and it gets a little bit silly. Like the murders are coming really fast.
Yeah.
You have the grenade, the guy who gets shot and he like reveals the grenade. And I think just like, it's really cathartic when you have something where like you're counting the soldiers in each scene, you're very much locked into the mystery. And then they go, okay, we're going to reward you now with like this big cathartic burst of nonsense violence. And that was great.
It's sort of like the end of Ready or Not, if you've seen that. The sort of big burst literally of violence at the end of that one. But then they follow it up with what I thought was the scariest part of the movie, which is at the end of the movie, one guy is left alive, but he's blind, and he has this blindfold on, and he is like going crazy, and he's talking about like how he misses his mother, and he's like imagining the guys are still alive and like playing a prank on him, and he's like, come on out, guys, and I found that part really harrowing because that part felt like war, right? Like that really felt like it captured something about the reality. Like it felt like we'd spent so much time in this supernatural ghost world that, as you said, is sort of devoid of Viet Cong, and sort of the Vietnam War feels very far away, other than the fact that these guys are in the military. And then at the very end, it all kind of collapses back to reality and the realities of war with this guy who is permanently disfigured. Everyone he knows there has died, and his mind just can't process it.
And the rescue mission that's coming to get him, probably, if they find him, they're going to find him like that, and they're not going to be able to take him home because they're doomed.
Yeah, I was kind of confused because you hear the helicopter guys at the end. They're like, we found one guy.
And my
crazy,
first
and
impression was like, oh,
are they going to get stuck there? Why didn't we do that?
That's kind of a cop out for them. Him getting away at the last second kind of feels like a little bit too uplifting. It's like, oh no, right, they're all going to die.
This is. I'm just gonna. Maybe this will come up again when we talk about your pitch. But one thing, I have a thing when it comes to looping stories, where when you find out you're watching one bit of a cycle that has happened over and over, which is my question for that story. Then is why this one? I think it's really important if you're telling a looping story that the loop that you are choosing to tell is an important one. It's where things change. It doesn't mean it's where the loop ends, but there's something about this one that's different and why it's the one that we're sharing with you. And I don't know what that is for this movie. I don't know if there's anything distinguishing this loop from the others. And then it's like, well, then why didn't we see the French group? Why didn't we see the group before this? Why didn't we see the group after this? Like, why is this the one that the writer and director, Cass, do you have any thoughts on this, on why this might be the one?
That relates a little to my pitch.
Great.
So,
love that.
Well, that sounds like a great segue for us to hop into our break, and then we'll let you run wild with your pitch. We're going to be back in just a second after this message, and then we're going to hear Cass Marshall's take on our point.
Our point 2 or point 0, who knows?
Our point is a very, very, very fine point.
Say, Bob, ever wonder the difference between a Yorker and a Googly?
I can't say that I have, Bob.
Well, you're in luck, because I'm here to introduce you to Obscure Sports America, a weekly newsletter that'll answer that question and so many others. The lovable idiots who bring you the Darty Party USA podcast, Brad Hill and Nick Bond, are taking a journey through the very wide world of obscure sports, leagues, and tournaments, and they would love for you to join them. They'll send you a streaming schedule telling you where and when to watch every major cricket, rugby, darts, snooker, lacrosse, team, handball, and squash match they can find for the week ahead. They've also got an expanding list of rotating features explaining just what makes sports like curling, cornhole, and wife carrying such lovely pastimes.
Wife carrying?
You heard me. And if they're not already covering a sport you love, you can just let them know and they'll add it to the list. Because at Obscure Sports America, all sports are good sports. Visit obscuresportsamerica.beehive.com/subscribe to learn more. That's Beehive spelled B-E-E-H-I-I-V.
So, what is the difference between a Yorker and a Googly?
That answer wasn't in the ad copy.
Welcome back to the Pod Universe. We are here with Cass Marshall of Rogue.site and formerly of Polygon, here to pitch us a remake of some sort of the 2004 South Korean ghost war horror film R Point.
Yeah, but you know what always goes really well? When a Hollywood studio decides to remake a Korean horror movie.
Yeah,
it has gone well 100% of the time.
Every time we make an American remake of any piece of Asian cinema, it's always good. I mean, look, Spike Lee's Old Boy, many others, and
the rest,
and the rest that I can definitely think of off the top of my head on a Thursday evening. Cass, you were telling us off mic that this in particular is exactly what we look for here, which is big budget Hollywood American blockbusters, red-blooded American blockbusters, the kind that are going to make us, a couple billion at the box office?
Easy, especially if this thing takes off in Asian markets.
Sure, yeah.
We're probably not going to get China.
Our Point is great, great movie. When I was watching it, really the first thing that came to mind is they are leaving money on the table.
That's right.
I think we can workshop this thing and really get it into being #1 weekend for sure.
All right. Well, paint us a picture. Take us there. Take us to our point.
So here's the idea that I have, which is the original R Point. Let's call this a soft reboot because it's a time loop. It's a cycle. So we can keep that. I don't think, we're going to best the twist of the doppelganger ghosts hiding among them. That's been done. Audiences want something a little clearer, a little fresh. And so here's what I have in mind. What happens if, in the wake of R Point, after more cycles, an American team of military specialists go in with the intention of solving R Point?
Now, this is after the Vietnam War. This is post-Vietnam War.
Is this contemporary now? Is this a modern day story?
I'm thinking maybe not like modern day, but post-Vietnam War. There's bad blood. There's, everyone doesn't have state-of-the-art tech. So they're working with, maybe the 80s, the 90s, that era.
Okay.
Just before everybody would have cell phone signal, perhaps.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
But at the time when American companies were coming to Vietnam, they'll be able to go to McDonald's, the McDonald's in R Point and get and get a big R burger. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have much room for tie-ins for corporate partnerships. So I think just pushing the timeline along a little really opens the door there.
Yeah.
So I think you need to start with the Lieutenant Choi equivalent.
Okay.
And Lieutenant Choi is a bit of a rebel. He has insubordination on his record. And I'm thinking, so you get someone like a Glenn Powell.
And he is... As soon as you said they're leaving money on the table, I was like, well, yeah, we could get Glenn Powell in this. And I didn't say it because I didn't want to cast your movie for you, but we were on the same wavelength. Yes, Glenn Powell leading the R Point
It's
troop.
an easy pick when he's currently one of the 3 people who can open a movie. Let's get him on board.
Yes.
And we can have him be a bit of a rebel too. Perhaps he's a little bit of a skeptic. He's like, I don't know why you're sending me here when I could be doing much more, useful military stuff in the field.
Yeah.
And so I think to counter that, we need someone who buys in, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The whole way. So I'm thinking the lady in the Jurassic Park movies, the newer ones. Chris Pratt's opposite. I can't remember the
Bryce
actress's name.
Bryce Dallas Howard?
Yes. I think we need one of those, a character who's the scientist, but who's a paranormal scientist.
We need a Mulder for our Scully.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Okay. Are you thinking Bryce Dallas Howard?
I think she could do it for sure.
We've never cast her before. That's cool.
I don't think we have, and I love her. She is older than Glenn Powell to the point where she might have to be, some sort of...
All right, now here's the
higher ranking.
I think
officer.
All right, is the idea. So they've been sent there specifically on a mission to explore this supernatural thing, right? So
yes,
yeah. So she's the experienced paranormal investigator with all these years of experience. Maybe not even military, or maybe the military's highest, highest ranking paranormal expert.
This is sort of like Kong Skull Island, where you've got a mix of experts and soldiers, right?
That sounds right.
Absolutely. And I think you can have her also be a little bit apart from the military unit. They're all on a team together, but you could even have the soldiers fear that this is going to backfire, that she's going to sell them out, that she's feeding them to this horrible ghost phenomenon. You have room for tension there.
Well, and also just that there's a lady present, right? That they're they can't be the boys.
I mean, it's the 90s.
Yeah,
gender dynamics are changing in ways that, we don't know about it.
And she will be in heels the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. There'll be a scene where Glenn Powell is like, well, why don't you introduce me to this paranormal quack you have on board? What's his name? And she goes, you mean her name? Click, heels walking in.
Yes, the heels walking in, the pan up.
Perfect.
Yes.
Then I think you definitely need to have a squad. You need some people who can die early on. You need red shirts.
Sure.
And I think Justice Smith would make a great red shirt. He's a guy who's like, oh boy, howdy, I can't wait to be a lieutenant like you one day, Glenn Powell. And he is 100% going to get mulched.
Cass, hold on. I have to... Did you pick Justice Smith because you know of our Justice Smith casting history, or is this just a random pick?
He's the Quarry, which is
he is.
Okay, the reason that we laughed out loud, for anyone who's new, every single guest that we have on the show
cast Justice Smith.
Listen...
And he's great.
We love Justice Smith.
He's great.
To the point where, Cass, at the end of the Dark Universe saga, so many guests had cast Justice Smith. We made Justice Smith our core lead of the pod universe.
Yes, he is now. He is our Robert Downey Jr. He is our Tom Cruise.
So if we make this R Point canon to either the pod universe or the Dark Universe, we might have to recast Justice Smith because he has been used. But if this just ends up being the beginning of the R Point cinematic universe, then Justice Smith is all yours.
You could put out a casting call just saying, give us your Justice Smith alikes, and I'm sure you can get some up-and-comers.
We'll get our Justice Smith types going.
And here's where I want to open the floor for a little brainstorming. We have our leader, we have our paranormal scientist. What other squad mates? We definitely need someone who's a sexist jerk.
Sure.
Who's a lady doctor, and he dies too, of course.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who would play him, but I think that's an essential role. And then who else would fit into this sort of squad we're building?
I think we need a man of faith, right? We need somebody who
Sure.
believes in the supernatural, but not in this supernatural.
In a spiritual way.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's the kind of thing where, like, he believes, first of all, that God is on his side. And so that in that sense, he's safe, right? He doesn't believe something like this could happen to him. He's open to the possibility of, like, he's not immediately like, that's impossible. He just doesn't think his mind is not in the right framework for what the nature of this supernatural phenomenon is. And
I love it.
For that, I like to go with, I've lost his name. That really likable actor who is in The Long Walk and Alien Romulus.
Oh, yes. David Johnson, is that his name?
David Johnson with 2 S's?
Yes.
And he's a character who we don't want him to die because he's good at heart. And for him, this is not only scary, it's kind of heartbreaking because it's forcing him to confront the possibility that his own beliefs will not protect him.
Yes.
That is a dynamic I like to have in there. And then you got to counter that with like a complete asshole.
Yeah.
Cass was mentioning the guy who's got to be like
The Sawyer.
Yeah, exactly. And for that, my first thought is Dominic Sessa, who was famous for The Holdovers.
You love casting Dominic
I like
Sessa.
Dominic Sessa. He's a big, lanky weirdo. He's a realistic, like, sort of teen or early 20-something who you hate, but you kind of know that it's just because he's young. Like, that's the same type of guy.
He's already worked with Justice Smith before.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard used to be that guy, and then he aged out, right? Or we all just fucking got sick of him. I don't know. Dominic Sessa is that guy, except for he's in prestige films.
Yeah, let's get him back with Justice Smith. Cass, what were you going to say?
Who else do we want?
Sorry, yeah, we'll
I
cut
think-
you off.
Oh, no worries. I'm thinking that's a fantastic dynamic. So we have the man of faith. We have Mr. Secret War Crimes, the asshole with a dark past.
Mhm.
And then I think you can round it out with, you mentioned The Long Walk. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's son is in that.
Yes.
And I think he would make an excellent babyface rookie. He doesn't have the same aspirations. He's the guy who's, totally new. And you need a baby face. You need someone to be totally wide-eyed and like out of their element, I think.
He's just trying to pay for dental school.
Yeah, Cooper Hoffman in like a fresh military recruit role does fit really well. I can see that.
Well, that's the thing. If you're sending someone to war, you need to have someone who's like, can't wait to see my girl when I get back.
Oh, of
I
course.
brought her this ring. So I'm thinking Joe Neely as,
Okay.
private heartthrob. And he's there to be like, when I'm home, I'm going to propose to my girl. And you're like, you're not getting home, idiot. You
Yeah.
fucking fool.
Show us that picture you have in your pocket again. Just flash it for us real quick.
Yeah. You said Joe Neely?
Yeah.
the Stranger Things guy.
guy.
Miri with an R.
It's not Kiri?
Oh, it's Kiri. Right.
Oh, my apologies.
Is that who we're thinking of?
Joe Kiri.
Yes.
Okay. This handsome devil?
Yes.
Yeah. I think, he has that big expressive forehead. That's great for gazing at a Polaroid.
Absolutely.
And also great for
Really?
taking a sniper bullet.
Oh my God. No one has to take a sniper bullet in this. Okay. These are
that's right, they're
ghostly
ghosts.
deaths.
There it goes.
So I think we have a pretty good crew.
Yes.
You could maybe throw a couple of red shirts in there, but I think we have all the pieces you need for a great ensemble.
Yes.
And I think you start, we hear Lieutenant Choi had insubordination. I think you need to see it. So we start with Glenn Powell, and he is, on a battlefield, and we see him do something. We see him defy orders in some way, and we're like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. And he gets home. He's on the outs with the military. And you're just heartbroken for him because he's obviously a cool guy. And then his superior's like, we have a mission for you. It's unorthodox, but if you do it, you'll be back in our good books.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Maybe the mission could even be thinking about Indiana Jones here, right? Indiana Jones being sort of like the great example of this is a guy who is a hero sent into supernatural situations, but he's a skeptic, right? Maybe give him a mission in the beginning that has like shades of an Indiana Jones type adventure where other people believe that there's some sort of supernatural angle, but he knows better and he's right. And it reinforces him as a guy who's like, I'm above this mumbo jumbo. Okay. I'm not, other people turned down this assignment because they were too scared. Not me. I'm going in. And then he gets humbled.
He gets humbled by Bryce Dallas Howard.
We introduced her. We already kind of sketched that scene out. We meet the rest of the cast, and none of them are taking this too seriously. We have Private War Crimes is being a dick to Bryce Dallas Howard. We have Joe Carey telling everyone about his girl back home. We have Cooper Hoffman, being like, oh, golly, is this how I reload a gun? You're really establishing them all before they're shipped out so that, when they start dying, you're like, who could have seen this coming? They all seem so competent and survivable.
Yeah, the cockiness, also similar in Kong Skull Island, where they go in like, this is a milk run. And then they're all getting killed.
But the period that we've set it in, if we are going with maybe the mid-90s, early 90s, has that extra element of all of these guys would have signed up after the Cold War ended. And they don't ever expect to see action. They just get to go serve for a little bit, get their benefits, go home, and return to a functioning economy. They're not really worried about anything.
I mean, there could be also an interesting angle for War Crimes guy where he's into this because maybe his dad died in Vietnam, and he's like, oh, I get to go back to Vietnam and get some revenge.
Yeah, maybe he's hoping for some action.
He's hoping for some action because the idea of going to Vietnam with a gun is he's like, oh yeah, they killed my dad, but now I'm in charge. We lost that war, but there's a McDonald's, so we really won the war.
You know what we're missing right now from this war story set in Vietnam? Any Asian people. So far, zero.
Well, this is the big Hollywood American remake. We cast all white people.
Yeah, but we also didn't, move it to a Native American burial ground.
That's true.
So I feel like if we really want to do the cynical Hollywood thing, then we cast exactly one Asian person played by a different nationality of Asian person who does not speak the language that the character is supposed to speak as their first language, but is bankable here in the United States. Are we getting too deep into the meta here?
We might be getting... I want to hear the rest of the
I love
pitch.
This. I don't have an actor in mind, but I do love this. And we can call him Private Exposition. Because as they're stumbling upon things, he can be like, no, my people know about this. And he tells them about the curse. And, then we can have Private War Crimes be like, whatever, totally blow him off, and then immediately get gibbed by a ghost.
Totally.
So we have our squad. They're heading into the jungle. Spirits are high. And then I think you can kind of have the man of faith be the first one to see something that's not quite right. He sees perhaps an American soldier from the Vietnam War, maybe played by Don Cheadle, standing in a field ominously. Sure. And when he points it out, Glenn Powell is like, you need to drink more water. You're just seeing things, buddy. But that's our first sign. And then I think as they approach, that's when things start to escalate. So you have the stone. I don't think they would piss on it in the same way, but I think Private War Crimes is definitely the guy who starts initiating. He's almost taunting the ghosts to come out.
I feel like if we're going to repeat any specific beat from the movie, having Private War Crimes piss on that same stone, I think that's an echo I wouldn't mind doing because it is both funny and completely believable.
Yes.
There's just a certain kind of guy who sees a sacred rock and thinks, I gotta piss on that.
Yeah.
And then you can have Bryce Dallas Howard be like, you fool, and give him, a warning, like, you have no idea what ectoplasmic energies you've disturbed. To which he goes, in English, please, which is perfect beat.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's the money line right there.
Absolutely.
And, and then Private War Crimes because of this, he needs to be the first to die.
Yeah.
And so I think, they make camp for the night. Private War Crimes is like, I'm going to go and take a piss. I'm going to stretch. He leaves for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then they find his corpse the next morning.
Okay, and this is still
Horrible fate.
This is still a finding bodies movie and not a watching kills movie.
We're not going to see him get his shit rocked.
Yeah, and if you can have it be like, maybe it was an animal, like you don't quite know.
Mhm.
It's not as overt as the hanging corpse. You're a little bit of doubt still. They're starting to argue among each other. Maybe the man of faith is having some doubts. He's starting to reckon with this. Private Babyface is horrified. He vomits in the jungle as they stumble upon this grisly scene.
Well, Private Babyface has to be the one to find the body, right?
Yeah, that's true. Would whoever be most devastated, Private Babyface, then turns around, throws up on another sacred rock, just doubles down on the whole problem.
I was also going to say Private War Crimes. Maybe he goes off to piss and he sees a ghost in the distance.
It's his father.
Oh shit! That
it's
would
his
actually
father
be sick.
who died.
That's perfect. That's full circle.
He sees a ghost in the distance and assumes it to be a Vietnamese soldier and chases after the ghost to like kill it, like gun out, and it's like, I'm finally gonna do it.
Turns him around, gun to his face. It's his dad. It's his dead dad.
Cut to black.
Yeah,
and we find his body.
Yeah.
That would be pretty
I
cool.
think we could even have a scene where they're going through the jungle where Private War Crimes is like telling them about his dad, and his dad was in the same squad as Don Cheadle Ghost, right? So, that's why he's showing up. We have some there's a whole other squad of ghosts, similar to the Americans in the copter, who are there to like warn them, like, you must survive to the dawn. And Private War Crimes' father is one of them who confronts his son in the jungle in that escalation of stakes.
Sure.
So next morning, they find his body and they're like, we got to get out of this jungle. We got to get to a safe place. How about this French plantation?
Got to get a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which
gotta have a haunted house.
This is a haunted house movie. Like it is, and it's a good haunted house movie with its own special setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all right, so they go there, and I think that if we are going to presume that this, this being a sequel to, in a sense, a requel to the existing R point, it might be interesting to learn more about some of the history that gets glanced at here, especially since we, the relatively ignorant audience, don't know all the history very well.
They should also find the photo of the team, of the R point team, right?
Yeah,
somewhere on the premises.
Yeah, and that kind of thing where, they find that photo, and it's just a little thing for us, right? They find that photo there.
What if they find, as a little nod for people who've seen the original R point, what if they find that photo and now the girl is in it?
The girl's in it now.
The same way she was in the French plantation photo.
Yes.
And it turns out.
I love it.
Yeah, like she wasn't there when they took the picture, but now she's there because she killed all of them.
And they wouldn't know, and for all we know, right? If we were then to project backwards, we're trying to assume that there's a connected canon here, leads us to then wonder, in the original R point, was she originally in that photo?
That's right.
Or did she die in the first massacre and she haunted them, right? We get to work. It gives us, without like necessarily overwriting anything about the original, it becomes additive, making us wonder more. So that's fun. I like that idea a lot, Dalton.
Thank you. Cass?
Absolutely. We are spinning gold here.
That's right.
They're settled into the plantation for their first night, and everyone's still kind of not quite sure how supernatural this is. They find the photo. At first, things seem fine. Bryce Dallas Howard is setting up her equipment, and everyone's kind of giving her shit, making fun of her a little bit. But then you have Private Babyface and the Private Heartthrob go off. They're like, oh, we're going to go get some chairs from the upstairs so that we can have a proper sit down or whatever. You just have a reason, an excuse for them to go off screen together. And they're upstairs, and Private Heartthrob is just talking about how he can't wait to get home. Maybe he even shows like, I got her the engagement ring, takes it out.
Yeah.
It was so much cheaper here.
They're having a good time. And then you see Private Babyface's face just go blank. He's been possessed. Second death happens, but they don't realize at first. You just see his face go blank. You're like, oh, that's disturbing. Cut to downstairs, where Bryce Dallas Howard is like, I'm picking up signs of perhaps ghostly activity. And then that's death too. Eventually they find Private Heartthrob murdered upstairs.
Sure. And now at this point, is babyface Cooper Hoffman, does he seem back to normal? Or is he going to be possessed the rest of the movie and sort of be like a sleeper agent, a ghost sleeper agent?
I think you want to keep it ambiguous. So like when they find him, he's like, I don't know what happened. Oh my goodness. And it's like, is he still possessed? Can you trust him? I think the ghost sort of hopping from person to person is a great finale piece.
Yeah.
But for now, you kind of leave it ambiguous as to the setup. You know, is he still possessed? Does he even remember what happened?
Yeah, I mean, a heartthrob's death could even be like, you know, they're hanging out on the roof, having a cigarette, having a beer, having one of those Budweisers. I mean, there's our product placement.
Yep.
It's also in the original. And he falls off the edge of the roof, right? We don't even see him fall necessarily. We don't see him get pushed. He falls off the roof, right? Babyface is the only one up there with him.
Mm-hmm.
But no one would believe that Private Babyface pushed him off. First of all, everyone likes Heartthrob and everyone loves Babyface. He's so harmless. He must have been an accident, right? They're drinking. This place is unstable. Take a bad step, goes over the edge. But there's just a slight pall of suspicion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we as an audience, we got to see that look and we know something's up.
And Bryce Dallas Howard is like, guys, we need to be concerned. I just got my ectoplasm meters going off the radar. And Glenn Powell was like, you know, I've seen young privates die before and horsing around. It's rough, but that's war. It happens. And then I think what you do to sort of escalate it is you have Private Babyface go to the man of faith eventually and be like, can I confess my sins? And at first it's like, you know, very mundane things. But then he eventually goes, and you know what? I did shove Private Heartthrob off the roof. And now you're next. They get into a scuffle and the man of faith has to kill him in self-defense.
Okay. I like that.
I like it.
So now they're freaking out. Like the man of faith is just straight up, you know, tells everyone, I just had to kill Private Babyface. He told me he killed Heartthrob. You know, the readings are going crazy. You have some like Paranormal Activity style shots around the plantation. People are maybe starting to turn on each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's where I could use a little bit of workshopping. I think you need to have the survive until dawn timer.
Sure.
Right. That gives them like something to hope for, but also, you know, the fear of, can we make it? So maybe like you have a helicopter come in with troops, or maybe there's a message of some kind. And I'm curious, how do we deliver that?
I was kind of thinking, I think Bryce Dallas Howard, if she's going into this as the paranormal expert, she needs to be going in with a plan for how to take care of this. Like how to, like, right, that's their mission, is to
all right,
fix our point for good.
Do you have an idea for that?
No, go ahead.
All right. I think that her specialty is she's a ghost negotiator. She's a negotiator.
Negotiator. Yeah.
She has a track
In fact,
record.
Our Point, not a very marketable Hollywood title. It's called The Negotiator.
She has, in the past, resolved the issues with ghosts. She communicates them. She speaks their language, okay?
Mm-hmm.
She understands ghosts on a scientific and spiritual level. And so she's there to try and end this cycle of violence by making peace with the ghosts here. She has perhaps underestimated the depth of this curse.
Yes.
But she is, however, adept enough that she is able to have a sort of conversation with our spooky, ghostly Vietnamese lady and able to basically have a dialogue. We have a scene, you know, she's standing in a room, the ghost is just kind of walking around the perimeter of the scene, camera's following her, right? She's delivering a warning. I think it would be cool to do that thing where the actor, the character is speaking in Vietnamese, but our character does not understand why she understands her, right? It's just because she's not really speaking Vietnamese and she's not really speaking English. They're speaking ghost.
Yes.
And basically is given this thing being like, if you can keep from killing each other for, 24 more hours until dawn of the third day or whatever, then you may be allowed to leave. Because maybe the idea is like, as the curse says, right? The text of the curse is, if you have blood on your hands, you will not return. Perhaps what we have here is that not everybody here has blood on their hands, right? They've joined the military, but this is not wartime. Some of these guys haven't necessarily performed actual acts of violence on people yet. And she is not a soldier, right? She is a ghost paranormal peacemaker, right? So she's not required to die. But maybe the real goal that the way that it's sort of like a deal with the devil here, right? Because the ghost doesn't want to give up haunting. This is her whole thing. She's been doing this for a long time. She's locked in this cycle of violence. She's filled with rage from the generations of blood of her and her countrymen that's been spilled here by various foreign invaders, represented by this troop, right? So her thing is like, hey, if you all are all, it's peacetime, right? You're not here to kill anybody. Maybe only Glenn Powell has actually killed, and war crimes. Those two guys have actually killed somebody before. The rest of them actually are relatively without sin at this time. And the whole thing is, okay, if you can get out of here without becoming killers, then you can leave. But throughout this process, she's kind of tipping the scales, and she's bringing out the worst in all of them, and she's bringing them to kill each other. And her thing is basically like, can I get every single one of you to be subject to this curse by the end of this time?
Well, I have a little complication to that. What if it's not just, can you not kill each other till morning? What if it's, you must purge yourself of those with blood on your hands?
Oh, and so it's kind of like almost a game of werewolf, right?
Yeah,
where they
it's
have to
like-
figure out who in this, in order for us all to go, we have to figure out who among here is innocent under the rules that we sort of have to assume.
Yeah, by
And
dawn, only people that are innocent can be alive. So people that have blood on their hands sort of need to kill themselves in order to end the curse, but everyone's going to be like, no, I don't. And so then other people turn on them. And
right, and the paradox of it becomes,
Then you
okay,
get blood
in
on your
order
hands
for you
if
to
you're gonna kill
save
them,
yourselves, you have to kill one of these guys who's a killer, and now you're a killer.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22, as war frequently is. It's all bullshit. And, okay, well, we
I
just
think
go
we
ahead,
could have
Chelsea.
private exposition play a role in this.
Yes.
By being like, kind of clarifying the rules. Like the man of faith, if he kills Private Babyface in
Right.
self-defense, is that blood on his hands? And private exposition can be like, I've heard stories of like people who they thought they were right in defending themselves, but the curse still took them anyway, and it sows doubt. Like, do they have to execute this man of God? Or
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing with the man of faith is like, he's killed someone. He has blood on his hands, but suicide is a sin. And so, like, he can't bring himself to kill himself.
Oh, that's right, because he's like, I don't. Maybe he does. So maybe we don't have him kill Babyface.
No, I think that's good. He kills Babyface. Now he's stuck because he's
okay,
if I kill myself, that's a sin.
I break the curse. So it becomes a conflict between his beliefs that he had walking into this place and the new things he's had to potentially buy into as a person in this curse created by a different spiritual system.
He wants to save everyone else and he wants to end this curse, but he won't allow himself to kill himself. And so then, there's all this negotiation. People are turning on each other. People are lying about whether they've killed people
before.
This
is a perfect David Johnson role.
Yeah. And in the meantime, ghosty shit is happening. Like someone can run out and try to escape because everyone's, ganging up on them, like as having blood on their hands. They go out, they encounter more ghosty shit, and by dawn, this has to be resolved or they all die and the curse continues.
And I think Glenn Powell 100% has blood on his hands. And he knows he's not making it out.
Yes.
So I think we have to engineer a final stand. Like maybe he's protecting Bryce Dallas Howard as she's getting all these readings. She's like, they're off the chart. If I bring these back to my lab in America, I can maybe solve the R-point equation. And that's what she would call it because she's a scientist.
Of course. It also sounds very technical.
So maybe she's in there and someone is maddened by ghost powers, furious, trying to break down the door, and Glenn Powell is standing between him and her in this last stand where he's redeeming himself. He will go down, but it's in the defense of the scientist who will be able to solve the ghost problem, perhaps once and for all.
Yeah, great. We've built a redemption arc around our presumptive first or second lead.
Yeah, I want to figure out who our survivors are. I feel like Bryce Dallas Howard survives.
Yeah.
I wonder if there would be a way for our man of faith to survive. I kind of like that
Perhaps.
idea. Even though he has killed someone, if there's they find some loophole or it is the self-defense thing or
So maybe we have a scene where the man of faith is trapped with the ghost. And like there's some sort of trap, like a spiked plate is slowly pressing down on him, like slowly crushing him. And by confessing, by apologizing to the ghost for the violence visited upon her, that is how he earns his salvation.
Another idea that I just had is, what if they find out that Cooper Hoffman's character wasn't possessed, he had been killed and imitated? Like, maybe they go up to that second floor and find Cooper Hoffman's body, even though the man of faith had killed him somewhere else. And so we realize, oh, he didn't actually kill Cooper Hoffman. He killed a ghost. He just killed someone who was already dead. So he hasn't actually shed blood. He is...
So that way he gets to have the moral dilemma, and then we kind of let him off the hook.
But we can do
no matter
both.
what we do, we're potentially letting him off the hook. So if there's a clever enough way, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that.
I think we can do both, where he does the confession, but I feel like it's too much to hook it just on a confession. I feel like that's buying a little too much into his ideology of things. I think he does have this emotional moment where he maybe realizes that in order to save everyone else, he has to kill himself. He makes a public confession in front of everybody, expresses all this guilt, and, you know, even confesses for the sin he's about to do by taking his own life. And just before he does it, someone finds Cooper Hoffman's body and is like, wait. And that way he has earned his right to live in horror movie terms, because he has done this sort of emotional work of ridding himself of this guilt and stuff. And that allows him to live by the rules of a slasher, you know, kind of thing.
And then I think one last hanging thread is private exposition does survive. Like maybe he's maimed in some way, like he loses his arm, like he loses an eye.
Right,
some
he could
sort
be
of
blinded like
reminder.
the last character in the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes back with Bryce Dallas Howard because that's the sequel setup for R Point Squared, which is private exposition, and Bryce Dallas Howard have done the tests and they're like, we have to go back.
Or we now have the data. The military takes their data and creates its own R point.
Right. What they want to do is they want to be able to create this inescapable trap. They want to weaponize it.
They want to weaponize R points.
R points.
R point : hyper point.
I was immediately thinking, like, now they're going to go underneath the plantation and find like catacombs of an ancient puzzle.
Yes.
Maybe they get like private exposition and Bryce Dallas Howard get back. They hand over the discs. Private exposition is like, I can't believe we made it alive. You know, we made these sacrifices, but we did something good. And Bryce Dallas Howard nods. They have a moment. He leaves and she turns to her superiors and gives an evil smile, like a Star Trek villain when the heroes walk off screen. And she's like, Project R Point Ghost Dialect is now complete.
Ghost Dialect. Oh, I love it.
And now we create our own R Point for our enemies in the future. They will get R pointed. The R Point Protocol.
This sounds like the perfect franchise that is a box office hit with the first entry. Second entry fails to meet its goal. Third entry is straight to video, and then it runs for 10 more entries.
Yes.
All direct to video.
Let's go full Scorpion King on this motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be so many to-be original sequels to this franchise. I love it.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where you're reading the description for one of the straight-to-video sequels, and it's like, when the American military established R Point on the moon, they never expected...
Yeah, we're definitely going to go R Point Lightspeed is definitely, like...
Bryce Dallas Howard agrees to appear in one of these sequels only if she gets to direct and dies in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then she comes back in like R Point 12 when she's like 70, and they get like 3 hours of shooting with her, and she's sitting in a chair the whole time, like Steven Seagal.
Private exposition is in all of them. And like he goes to conventions. Like he is now private exposition professionally.
He's taking the photos.
Yeah, real heads know him as the true lead of the series.
Yes, absolutely. I love this. This is exactly the kind of franchise that we want to put the money behind.
And you can tie it into a greater cinematic universe very easily by just having, after the reveal, you have the Nick Fury moment, like, I want to talk to you about the R Point program. And you can
the R-Vengers.
Yep, goes.
The R-Vengers.
The R-Vengers, yeah. And, at a certain point after, the Dark Universe has become box office poison, then we start linking those together in the direct-to-video spinoff.
Yeah.
Maybe we even get it once the nostalgia kicks in, we get back in theaters with Dracula versus R Point, 30 years down the road. No, Cass, this is amazing. This is exactly the kind of franchise that we want to greenlight here at Two Poltergeist Productions. I don't think we have to put it cleanly in the Dark Universe or the Pod Universe. I think this is its own franchise now.
I think we plant this seed and we see what grows.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You let the fans theorize.
Yes.
And then you know what the people want from there.
And then if we need any ideas for sequels, we'll just scrape the subreddit.
Exactly. And just steal it right from them.
And they'll just be happy that they were right.
I think there's room to finagle like the order of murders, but we have a real strong skeleton here, and you can even have a skeleton in the movie.
That's true. You know what the first one is missing? Skeletons.
Not enough skeletons. There are bodies. By the way, sorry to go back to the original movie. Whose head was that the corporal guy is carrying at the end? He walks in with a head in his hand.
That's the guy right? The guy who was hanged with his head hanging on.
Yeah,
really?
I thought he just finished the job and was holding.
Yeah,
his
he
head.
went back for his head.
Yeah,
all right, cool. It's a gnarly head. It looks like Tarman from Return of the Living Dead. Anyway, Cass, what are you plugging? Tell us all about Rogue.site because I know we got some gamers in the audience.
Absolutely. So Rogue.site is a project that me and 3 friends from Polygon started after the sale to Valorant. And we do a lot of indie game curation, a lot of small horror games like, what if you're trapped in a supermarket with a monster? Or what if you are writing letters for an evil corporation? We do those kind of curation and recommendations for games you might not have heard of.
Amazing.
And we also, just cover some of the bigger games that we love so that if you, want to get into 40K or League of Legends, but you have no idea what's going on in the story, we help walk you through that. So, Rogue.site, we have a lot of free content, and we are reader supported with some bigger projects like a history of the Second Galactic War and Helldivers 2. So even if you never played it, you can read all about the big battles that happened and the people who took part in them.
Well, our fans definitely love video games and lore. So
they love games, they love lore, and they love independent, worker-owned creative projects.
Yes. So definitely go check out Rogue.site. Anything else you want to plug, Cass?
If you want to find any more of my idle thoughts, I am Cass Marshall on Blue Sky.
Yes, definitely give them a follow. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for recommending R Point, a movie I never would have found or seen.
Yeah, honestly, it's the right kind of movie for it because you want to pick something that has a great core concept that, now this is not to say that R Point as it exists is like some kind of disaster. No. I don't know that we have the same fondness for it that you do. And I think that some of it has the context of, I feel like sometimes when you're watching a movie and you're like, I'm at work watching a movie, you get a different vibe from sitting down to watch something for pleasure. But we were able to take that concept and take it into an exciting, box office friendly 4-quadrant hit.
Oh, I know what I was going to bring up. Vietnamese actors.
Oh,
I found some Vietnamese actors that we could cast in this. Of course, Ke Huy Quan. From Everything Everywhere All at Once. Hong Chow.
Okay. Love Hong Chow. She actually, if we were going to go with less of like a bombshell type actress, then Bryce Dallas Howard could be fun as a lead.
Kelly Marie Tran. Love Kelly Marie Tran from Rose Tico from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Maggie Q.
She's an action heroine, right?
I feel like Maggie Q could almost be in the Bryce Dallas Howard role, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't want to recast.
She could, but it almost feels like it's a shame to cast Maggie Q and not let her kick any ass because she's quite good at it.
I think Hong Chow or Kelly Marie Tran would fit well in here. Maybe as like they're younger, but like maybe as like Bryce Dallas Howard's like assistant or something.
Well, if we want to have this be private exposition, right?
That's true.
This could be cool. And also, thing about Kelly Marie Tran is that at least in the very limited capacity that we got to see her because she got her 15 minutes, and then because Nurse didn't like her, we really don't see much of her anymore. Is Rose Tico has like she's like got a cuteness, but there's a lot of grit under it.
Mm-hmm.
She aspires to grit. And that's the kind of thing that a young soldier might have, is the idea of being like, listen, I'm here to prove something. I'm here to prove that I'm not just adorable. I'm also kick-ass.
And she's been on Comedy Bang Bang a number of times. She's super nice. And I feel like she is that kind of person that would be in all of the follow-ups and would go to the cons. So,
yes.
And that perfect for private exposition in that case.
Absolutely. I think that is the final touch to really bring the script together.
All right, Cass, well, we won't keep you. Thank you for coming on the Pod Universe. Thank you for making us billions of dollars with the R Point Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, we'll make sure you get some of them.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, no.
You'll get a special thanks in the
pool.
credits. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Ahoy there, ye scurvy landlubbers! That's right, there be 2 pirate-themed ad reads in this episode. Set sail on a nautical adventure through one of the most popular Japanese cultural exports of all time, with a detour through one of the most popular American cultural exports of all time. It's Domance Dawn, the only combination One Piece / The Simpsons podcast. On Domance Dawn, hosts Janine Juliet and Pod Universe community stalwart Luke Hare tackle a story arc from the long-running anime One Piece and assign each and every named character who appears in it a corresponding Simpsons character. All casting choices are locked in for at least 50 episodes, and no Simpsons characters may be reused. It's truly the most unhinged podcast concept this old sea dog has ever seen, and it's coming up on its 100th episode. Guests on the show have included Branson Reese, Jeffrey Golden, and Bitter Corella, as well as Pod Universe hosts Dylan and Dalton. So make like Springfield's favorite sea captain Horatio McAllister and set a course for adventure on Domance Dawn, streaming wherever you find podcasts and at domancedawn.com. That's DOHMANCEDAWN.com.
All right, well, that was a very fun pitch from Cass Marshall, and while we were off air, it might have inspired us to maybe change our guest pitch formats a little bit.
We liked something that came out of this that we might want to lean into.
Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that in future guest episodes, but we may be shifting things around a little bit. But enough of that. We have, before we let you go, a trailer to
That's
share.
right. We're back on the horse with putting our trailers to our upcoming scripted episodes in the previous guest episode.
Did we not do that last time?
It wasn't ready in time.
Really? We didn't? I thought we pinned it to the end. Didn't you? I thought you wrote it in time so that we could, right? Didn't you
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't remember when the last trailer came out.
I don't think it made the cut. I think it went up as a social clip.
Interesting. Okay, well, yes, we have now the trailer for our last solo pitch before War of the Worlds. It is my film called Late Adopters. Now, this is the one that I think from our slate announcement, people sort of knew the least what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully this trailer provides a clear picture for you.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Over Black.
Apple today auctioned off its final consumer computer, officially marking the end of the line for the former household essential they helped pioneer.
Open on 2 men eating dinner at a patio table while the sun sets, crickets chirping around them. This is Bill, played in the film by John Goodman, and Arthur, played in the film by John Malkovich. You hear about that last computer? Pretty sad.
Oh, please. You've been praying for this day since 1982.
I never liked the things. They're interrupted by the sound of a drone hovering far above them in the sky. Bill and Arthur leap to their feet. Who the hell still has drones? Bill shakes his head.
No one good.
Quick shot of a black town car approaching the house. Cut to the front porch. A woman stands, played by Richa Morjani, flanked by 2 armed guards.
My name is Mitra Bandari. May we come in?
hold on an exterior shot of the house. All is quiet for a moment, and then 3 gunshots ring out. Cut to Bill and Arthur fleeing the house, getting in the town car, and driving off. They stop on the side of a deserted road and open the trunk, revealing a young black girl curled up in the trunk with a gag in her mouth. This is Cora, played in the film by Bailey Bass. Bill leans over and pulls the gag out of her mouth. The two of them say at the same time,
Who the fuck are you?
Cut to the 3 of them speeding down the road in the night. Cora pulls out a black cube and shows it to the men in the front seats.
The hell is that?
This is why Alter kidnapped me, and why they wanted you. Bill turns around to look at her.
Who else knows about this?
Zoom in on Cora, who has a look that says, don't be mad. Title card, Alter. Shot of Mitra, who directs one of her goons to grab Arthur and put a gun to his temple. Title card, The Goners. Shot of a dozen men in black robes, faces obscured by black hoods. Their leader has a white teardrop design on the forehead of his hood. He points off screen. After them, and bring me the female alive. Title card, The Post-Caesarians. The black cube rests on a cushion on a pedestal in the middle of a dark room lit only by candles. A group of young women kneel in a circle around the pedestal. Cut to a woman played by Allison Williams, reaching her hand out to a frightened Cora.
You're the one we've been looking for.
Title card, The True Widows. A woman with a mask over her mouth and nose zooms down a dark road on a motorcycle, holding a handgun and firing at something in front of her. She reaches back and pulls her mask down, revealing Lizzie Kaplan, eyes narrowed, lips curled with rage. Title card, The Crypto King. Exterior shot of a contemporary mansion built into the side of a lush green mountain. A man stands at the top of the stairs, played by Tim Blake Nelson. His arms are spread wide, a grin on his face. He's surrounded by servants, white men in ragged clothes, looking down at the ground. Welcome to paradise. Title card, The Most Dangerous Gamer. Shot of a teenage boy, played by Alfie Williams, holding a controller and wearing a gaming headset.
Come on. Fire!
Cut to the jungle, where a man holding a rifle has his brains blown out by a sniper shot. Back to the teenager, celebrating.
Hell yeah!
End of montage. Cut back to Bill, looking at Cora in the back seat.
We have to get off this goddamn road.
Cut to Mitra, standing in an empty street surrounded by heavily armed altar goons.
Put your hazmat suits on, boys. This is gonna get gross.
Title card, Late Adopters. Back to the mansion. Tim Blake Nelson stands next to Alfie Williams, yelling down to an unseen crowd. Let the games be! He's cut off by the teenager, who pushes in front of him and yells,
Fuck that! Kill them all!
Coming to YouTube and podcatchers March 8th.
Well, Dalton, that is quite madcap.
Quite madcap. That's the Red Band trailer, obviously.
Obviously. I think it seems like you might have a hard time doing Green Band trailer on that one.
Yeah, that's so very different tone from Merge Conflict.
Yes, good.
And it is going to take place in the Prime universe.
Now, between reading the trailer aloud with you and one thing that I saw you talking to our designer, Kat Hopkins,
Yes.
about, I got some real Guy Ritchie vibes here. Is this going to be a Guy Ritchie joint?
It is not. It is a Nia DaCosta joint,
Okay.
as I said in the Slate
That's right,
review.
you said
I'm
that before.
keeping that.
Yeah, and after now having seen the Bone Temple, she's very good at putting that zany energy into something without undercutting stakes.
She did a good job in the Marvels too. Like,
That's true.
The
That's
Marvels is
pretty
kind of a
zany,
mess,
too.
but there's some zany stuff in there that really works. And I will say,
you're reuniting her with Alfie Williams, the really, really
Yeah.
good kid from the 28 Years Later movies.
that's right. And I will say, the 3 movies, I'm going to make one of those posts that's like the movies that influence this.
Uh-huh.
Children of Men, Rat Race, and Smokin' Aces.
Wow. What a cocktail.
What a cocktail.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll be back with that in 2
weeks.
2 weeks from today, that episode will be out. We haven't been mentioning this on the air, and we really should. We have been doing YouTube premieres of our scripted episodes.
That's right.
That you can watch along with other fans at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Sunday it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
The chat's always lively and fun. Join us for that.
Yeah.
We usually don't have the video uploaded until Saturday night, but
Yeah.
we will share those links as soon as we have them. And yeah, exciting stuff.
Let's go to our patrons. Remember, you can always sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton with a 7-day free trial. We appreciate everyone who's been popping into the Discord on those free trials lately. We have been advertising on our socials the fan script reads. We've got a whole FAQ put together by the community if you want to get involved in those. That kind of details how to get involved with the existing fan script community, attending readings, how they work, how all the fan fiction works.
Yeah, it's a beautiful writing community. We're just really honored that you guys hang out in the back of our comic book shop and do this shit.
Yes. So that's going on. Also, voting is open for the next studio mandate.
That's right. And that first new studio mandate that is determined by the new system, where $25 a month subscribers get to nominate films. $8 a month subscribers get to cast their votes on which one gets picked, and everybody gets a say in conversation, figuring out, in addition to getting to listen to the episode. That'll be on the 22nd of March after Late Adopters, along with a studio mandate based on the amazing adventures of Spider-Man, where we get to do a Dark Universe spin on Spider-Man thanks to the Universal Studios Florida loophole.
Is that how we're?
That is how it's justified by the person who picked that for us.
So that means the whole movie has to take place east of the Mississippi River. I think
that's actually most Spider-Man stories.
Yeah, most of them do. So I think we'll be fine.
We will not be doing Spider-Man. Peter Parker takes L.A. But yeah, so next week we're off. Then Late Adopters Part 1 on March 8th, Part 2 on the 15th, and the Studio Mandate on the bonus pod on the 22nd of March.
Yeah.
And until then, we'll see you online. We want to give a big thanks to our patrons, our executive producers who are at the $15 a month level and buy themselves a shout out on everything we record while we're there. Brent Dreyer, Brian Egan, Denim Mudslide, Diana, Jonathan Morgantini, Caleb McFarland, Mark Schmidt, Matt Thackeray, Michael Cox, Mike Lee Whiplash, Speep, Tucker, and Weiss Belladonna. We really appreciate your support. And a big thanks to our studio executives who will be determining our fate on the bonus pod for the foreseeable future. This is Bill French, Beerus, Brandon Bullock, Dracatella, Jasper Stark, Joe Valiant, Cadle, Moose, Serpenthrope, Sunmot, and the Wayfinder. We appreciate you so much. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
For Late Adopters.
And until next time, hey, stay away from our point.
Yeah, don't
go
there.
in there.
Just go to the McDonald's in Vietnam.
You don't know what counts as blood on your hands, all right? Don't tempt fate. Just stay out of there.
If you smacked a mosquito on your arm, does that count?
Could be bad. I don't know the rules. Anyway.
Stay away.
Stay out of there.
See you next time.
Bye.